he would say, "What do you call me, a perverted homicidal maniac?" And I said, "Well, that's like certainly one of the things I'd call you." And he was just like, "Whatever, you're a hoe." I was mostly kind of honest with him.
Jillian Shriner, also known as Jillian Lauren, somebody that I've interviewed here at Law&Crime before about a prolific crime spree, has now found herself in incredibly hot legal water, arrested for attempted murder. The wife of the bassist in the band Weezer reportedly got into this unbelievable altercation with police that involved her allegedly pointing a gun. We have a lot to break down about this. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Here's a headline you don't see every day. The wife of a musician from a well-known group is accused of attempted murder and was shot by the police. Yeah, we're talking about 51-year-old Jillian Shriner, or Jillian Lauren. She's an author, the wife of Scott Shriner, the bassist from the alternative rock band Weezer. You know, the group behind hits like Island in the Sun, Say It Ain't So, Only in Dreams. Now, while she's currently out on a $1 million bond, let me lay out for you what authorities claim happened here. So this apparently all stemmed from an alleged hit and run on the Ventura Freeway this past Tuesday, April 8th. And I'm going to read you a press release from the LAPD on this. Quote, on April 8th, 2025, around 3:25 p.m., the California Highway Patrol, CHP, requested a backup locating 3 misdemeanor hit-and-run suspects who fled into a residential neighborhood near the 134 freeway and Figueroa Street. Multiple Northeast Division uniformed officers responded and established a perimeter. Several minutes later, officers were directed by CHP to the rear of a residence in the 5300 block of Waldo Place, where one suspect was last seen running. As the officers were in the rear yard of that residence, they observed a female, later identified as 51-year-old Jillian Shriner, in the yard of a neighboring residence. Turns out that was her home, and the LAPD said that Shriner was, quote, armed with a handgun. The officers ordered Shriner to drop the handgun numerous times. However, she refused. Shriner then pointed the handgun at the officers, and an officer-involved shooting occurred. Shriner was struck by gunfire and fled into her residence. She later exited and was taken into custody. Los Angeles Fire Department paramedics transported Shriner to a local hospital where she was treated for a non-life-threatening gunshot wound. And reporting indicates she was hit in the shoulder. The release continues. No officers or other community members were injured during this incident, and the release indicates that a 9mm handgun was recovered from Shriner's home. She was ultimately absentee booked for attempted murder, meaning she was hospitalized. She couldn't physically be there for her booking, but still holds the same legal weight. So it's pretty wild that for somebody who LAPD concluded was not part of this alleged hit and run, this misdemeanor crime, she was arrested for an incredibly serious felony. And by the way, the LAPD indicates that one of the suspects connected to that hit and run was detained, cited, released. The other 2 suspects couldn't be found. And what is fascinating is her connection to crime in general. So according to ABC News, Shriner is a published author of several books, including the true crime novel Behold the Monster, confronting America's most prolific serial killer, based on her interviews with the most prolific serial killer in United States history, convicted murderer Samuel Little. Hey, I want to thank Upside for sponsoring today's Law&Crime YouTube takeover. Now, Upside is a free app that gives you real cash back on daily essentials like gas, groceries, restaurants. Super easy to use. You just claim an offer in the app, you pay as usual using your card, and you get paid. And this is actual real cash back. You can use Upside at places like Shell, Exxon, 7-Eleven, Chipotle, just to name a few. So to find out how much you can earn, click the link in the description to download Upside or scan the QR code on screen. And make sure to use our promo code LCTakeover and you'll get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. By the way, I actually know her. So as you may know, I host and executive produce my other show here on Law&Crime called Prime Crime. And I interviewed her several years back about her conversations with Samuel Little. Jillian Lauren, a New York Times bestselling author and someone who spent hours interviewing Sam Little, has made it her mission to be the voice of these victims.
Because of the fact that they were often prostitutes, often drug addicts, often women of color, women who were considered unimportant, or as some cops used to talk about, the women who were turning up in South Central dead almost every morning in the 80s. NHI, No Humans Evolved. But, you know, it wasn't just cops. He was tried by a jury of his peers. Once again, it's us who let him go.
So at this point, I want to bring on criminal defense attorney John Day. John, thanks so much for coming on. It's good to see you. Your initial thoughts about this case. As I said, it's a headline you don't see every day.
Yeah, this woman does not lead a boring life. I mean, she was a published author. She claimed she was a member of the harem of the brother of the Sultan of Brunei. She's living with the bassist for the band Weezer. And now she's charged with attempted murder of a police officer. I mean, this is what happens when you introduce guns and self-defense into a police chase that seems totally unrelated. Now, she's in her house, apparently. If we look at it from her perspective, and we don't know what's on the body cams or the officers, that's going to be key. She's in her house. There's some kind of disturbance. She steps outside with, I think, a 9mm pistol. According to the police, they tell her multiple times, drop the gun. She doesn't listen. And LAPD says she fires at least one round at the officers. They return fire. She gets hit in the shoulder. And now she's facing attempted murder charges. It's an incredibly bizarre story, but underlying it is issues of self-defense and what you do with a gun in an unexpected situation.
Yeah, just to put a point on that. So according to NBC, Detective Megan Aguilar indicated that body-worn police camera hadn't provided, quote, a clear view of what she did with that firearm, and that it was, quote, not clear if she fired at officers or not. So this is, clearly a rapidly developing situation. But my question to you is, if you have multiple eyewitnesses, police there, right, and you have surveillance, helicopter footage of some kind, because I believe that that was reported as well. What could be an explanation for this? It's so strange. I mean, she wasn't even a part of that initial crime they were investigating. What do you think we might be looking out for here?
Right. Again, she wasn't part of the initial chase. These are some run guys. The cops are chasing these guys for misdemeanors, and this turns into this attempted murder of a police officer. I mean, what is going through her mind? Does she hear some kind of disturbance and she steps outside and she's got a gun for protection? And what's going to be key is what the communications are from the law enforcement officers. Did she see them? Did she see uniforms and badges? Did she open fire? I mean, the initial reports indicated that she did. But again, it's all going to come down to the video on the body-worn cameras. But if you're in your house, I mean, again, take it from her perspective. We don't know what that is, but we can assume that there's some reason she steps outside with a handgun. And what are the orders that are yelled at her? I mean, is it drop the gun, we're LAPD, or does somebody just open fire? Again, it's all going to come down to what the cameras show. But to be facing an attempted murder of a police officer, at least I think the maximum sentence she's looking at in California is like 9-year sentence, maybe more with a firearm enhancement. But it gets down to the issue of you're in your house, you're in your property, and there's a disturbance. You think you have to protect yourself, but what you end up doing is maybe firing a shot at a police officer.
This is being reported as it's the LAPD has indicated that it's the Force Investigation Division. Their investigators responded to the scene. They're investigating this. What do you think that investigation looks like? Is it looking at body cams, surveillance? I mean, what do you think they're doing right now?
Yeah, I mean, does she have like Ring cameras, Nest cameras in the property? I mean, if she's stepping outside with a handgun, maybe she's got lots of security systems. Maybe there are cameras in her property and neighbor's property to show where the police officers are. There's obviously a reason she steps outside with the gun. Is it because she hears one of the guys they're chasing is in a neighbor's yard? Is he trying to get into her yard? How close behind are the police officers? And what is the location? That's why any video, especially from, is there a helicopter? Is there going to be?
Yeah, so there's aerial footage that surfaced of Shriner and apparently her babysitter outside, hands up. This is based on reporting from KTLA. So yeah, I think you see those images.
Yeah, and again, it's going to come down to what's going through her mind. What information does she have? What information do the police officers give her? I mean, the initial reports indicate that there were multiple commands: drop the gun, we're the police, and does she or does she not return fire? But if you are a homeowner and there's some kind of commotion going on, and if you have a babysitter, does she have children in the house? I mean, and what is the purpose of stepping outside with a gun before you have maybe a better picture of what's going on? It's what happens in a confusing situation when you introduce a pistol, a loaded 9mm handgun into the equation.
By the way, it's being reported that they were both questioned. So both Jillian Shriner and this babysitter, they were questioned by police. What do you think was said?
Well, they're going to want to know what the information, what was the input to these two people? Are they sitting inside the house? There's a babysitter. Are there children? What is it that draws Jillian outside? I mean, what is it that draws her outside with a handgun? And here's another question. If you have small children in the house, where is the handgun? How accessible is it? I mean, that's been an issue with lots of cases. If you have a loaded handgun in your house, is it safe from small, tiny toddlers who can access it? I mean, there's going to be a lot of stuff going on here. But again, this woman's life is not uninteresting. I mean, there have been so many chapters of it. This is another one. I mean, she's very lucky. She apparently got shot in the shoulder, not in a vital organ. And it was apparently not serious enough that she couldn't go back inside her house after she's shot. And we see that video from the helicopter of her, being detained, being handcuffed, being led into an ambulance, it looks like. But again, to me, it gets back to, you want to defend your property from some type of intrusion. But when the problem starts when it's the police on the other side and not a bad guy.
Do you think they're working towards a grand jury indictment? How would that work? And by the way, do you know how long they would have? Is it like they have to indict within 48 hours or 72 hours to get an indictment? I'm not sure if you're aware of what the rules are there, but you think that's what's happening? They're working for a grand jury indictment?
Last I read, LAPD had not yet turned this over to the district attorney's office for an evaluation of what they're going to do. I mean, if you're going to be charging attempted murder of a police officer, you got to back it up with something that shows the intent here that this woman had. And again, if it comes down to a miscommunication of some kind, again, I think there's some issue about what the body-worn cameras really are going to show. That's why the video is just going to be so important. But if you're the DA, do you really want to charge this woman with attempting to murder a police officer when there seems to be a whole lot of confusion leading up to the shooting?
Because the fact that she was booked in absentia, for attempted murder as opposed to aggravated assault or battery or one of those charges, why that? I mean, they could have booked her on a lesser charge, but attempted murder is, they believe that there was an intent to kill, or at least some action taken.
Exactly. Good point. Very serious. I mean, for the LAPD to make that initial charge, do they have something that shows multiple, very clear, enunciated commands to her? Hey, we're the police. We're the good guys. You have a gun. Drop your gun. I mean, do they say it one time? Do they say it 20 times? Does she actually return fire? I mean, that's certainly an issue that seems to be unclear. And it's going to come down to how specific, how clear, how commanding the police commands were. And were they visible? Were they hidden by a fence or a tree or bushes or something? What could she see from her perspective? I mean, you can imagine defending this case. You're going to know all that. You're going to know exactly what each officer's video showed. But, if there's a split second where police say we're the police and she fires when she doesn't know who they are, I mean, that's certainly an avenue of defense. But for them to back it up, for the prosecutors to make an attempted murder of a police officer charge stick, they've got to prove all the intent there, that she knew it was police officers, that she was acting with that intent, and it was not just a split-second miscommunication.
But there's a possibility that she could be charged with a lesser crime. It could be downgraded. Even if she's booked on something, she could potentially be indicted and arrested on a lesser charge.
Yes, absolutely. They could decide this is not an attempted murder, but this is an aggravated assault on a police officer. This is, all the way down to something like negligent use of a firearm. We don't know all the details yet, but she's starting off from a pretty serious place. But my understanding is the DA has not yet evaluated it, at least as of a little bit ago. And you're going to have the eyes of the prosecutors on this thing. What can we make stick in front of a jury? What are the circumstances? And how did we get into this place in the first place?
You mentioned something before about, way down the line, we're talking about if this really is, she's charged with attempted murder, what her punishment could be. So if she's charged and convicted of attempted murder, what is she looking at? Does it depend upon the degree? If it's attempted first-degree murder, then you're saying it's premeditated. Nothing from this fact pattern suggests that, at least, correct me if I'm wrong. The second degree, no premeditation, still intent to kill. So again, my understanding is you'd be looking at either 15 years to life versus 5, 7, or 9 years. What should we be thinking?
Yeah, again, it's going to depend on the intent, the premeditation, the level of what they can prove. My understanding is California has different variations on attempted murder of a police officer. It would include firearm enhancement time, of course, but it's still so early and we don't even know what they have. The fact that there are discrepancies in what LAPD is apparently saying to various outlets means that this thing is far from being set in stone. But yeah, theoretically, if you're convicted of attempted murder of a police officer, you're looking at a long, long time in a California state prison. But are we there yet? We just don't know.
By the way, just separate legal issue. If a police officer suspects a crime is being committed, or they're in pursuit of a suspect of a crime, and that person goes onto your property, even if it's your personal property, police have a right to jump on there. They don't need a warrant in case of an emergency situation, right? They would have a right to be on there and come in, maybe into your house if they suspect a crime, a suspect's running in there, or a crime's being committed, right? They don't need, it's exigent circumstances, something like that.
Yeah, that's a classic law school exam question. But yeah, if they have the exigent circumstances, they're pursuing somebody who's fleeing, they're jumping over fences. I mean, we see that all the time on the real crime shows where they're riding along with cops and you see the officers jumping over fences or crashing through bushes and things like that. Yeah, they can do that. They can jump over that. If the person runs into your house, they don't have to stop and necessarily get a warrant. If they can establish, yes, we were in a hot foot pursuit of this person and they ran into this property, they ran into this house, they're good to go as far as the courts are concerned.
Now, the reporting indicates that she's scheduled to make a court appearance on April 30th. What can we expect there?
You know, it's the first appearance. It's entry of a plea of not guilty. Again, by that time, we anticipate that the charges will have been formalized. The DA is going to decide what they're really going after. I mean, it's not a situation where they can just let it go and say, you know what, we both were wrong. I mean, that's not going to happen. She's going to face something. Whether it's going to be attempted murder of a law enforcement officer remains to be seen. I think it's sort of doubtful that based on what we know, that they're going to be able to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt to a jury. But something lesser might be more appropriate. But she'll be entering a plea of not guilty. Whoever her defense team is starts to work. And again, it's all going to come down to what the video shows, whether there's, contemporaneous helicopter video and each officer on the scene, their videos are going to have to be analyzed. And the eyewitness, if there's a babysitter, apparently, what was the babysitter's story about why they were going outside, what they heard, what the sensory inputs were, why there was a concern about that backyard.
Can I just touch on something you said earlier? If we're talking self-defense, have you ever seen a successful case where a civilian is able to, actually successfully apply a self-defense argument with respect to a police officer? Have you ever seen anything like that?
I haven't seen one just like this. I've done a bunch of self-defense cases, some involving police officers, some involving civilians, but never this fact pattern. Again, it's again, this could be a law school exam question because there's so many issues that need to be unpacked here. But it's pretty unique. But again, it gets down to your right to defend yourself against what you see as a perceived threat. I mean, why is that perceived as a threat? And what steps are you allowed to do? Why do you run outside with a handgun when you don't? Maybe what do you know about the situation? Is it just some kind of disturbance in your yard or the next yard? Or did she have some indication that there were police on the scene before she ran out? I mean, these are all the questions that have got to be answered. But again, if you were trying to defend your house, say you've got children in there, which she may have had because she has a babysitter there, what is reasonable? And what is reasonable when faced with police officers? And what should she have done? I mean, the easy answer is, if it's the minute she understood they were police officers, you drop the gun if that's what they're telling her to do. But did they do that?
Now, according to NBC News, neither Shriner nor her manager responded to requests for comment. A representative for Weezer didn't respond to a request for comment. At the time of this recording, I haven't seen a change there. Are you surprised there are no comments yet, John?
No, I mean, if you're defending this case or you're the manager, you want to just lock everything down until you have more information. I mean, incidentally, apparently Weezer's playing at Coachella, so that's going to be, an interesting show depending on what the bassist's wife is facing. But yeah, if you are defending this, you don't want anyone making any statements unless and until you have a full picture of what's going on. I mean, we don't know what statements the babysitter made to the police investigators. Did she make a statement in custody? Did she waive her Fifth Amendment rights? Did she give them a full accounting of what's going on? Again, this is an interesting woman. I mean, she has had a background that is not uninteresting. I mean, again, her history with true crime, investigative reporting, the book she wrote about her previous life in a harem. What are the odds that that's the house that the police are chasing a guy into? But at the end of the day, I think you can expect that whoever the defense team is, whoever they are in LA, and there's some great, really amazingly good defense lawyers there, they're going to try to circle the wagons, get a unified picture, and then start releasing statements in her defense.
It's a really unfortunate situation. Aside from the fact that, I know her, I've interviewed her, she's done great work, particularly with respect to the Samuel Little case. It was indicated on social media that she's been fighting cancer, that she was undergoing cancer treatment as well. So it's a really unfortunate situation, John. And again, it's a headline you don't see every day. So we'll keep an eye on it. We'll see what happens next. As I said, there's this upcoming court hearing. Maybe we'll get a little bit more information leading up to it or on that day. But John Day, thanks so much for taking the time and breaking down what is really a bizarre case.
Good to see you.
All right, everybody, that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.